Carbon monoxide is the #1 accidental poisoning problem in the United States and in the world. We think it's because it's so challenging to detect. As humans, we aren't able to detect carbon monoxide, meaning the gas is odorless, it's tasteless. We can't smell it. We can't sense that it's around. And because of that, it makes it really hard to detect, and we have to rely on carbon monoxide detectors to pick that up for us. And if those happen to not be working, we'll never know that that is going on until it's too late. My name is Sam Hawkins. I'm an emergency medicine physician at The Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. Carbon monoxide is very serious and it is very dangerous. If someone is exposed to carbon monoxide long enough, it can lead to a multitude of problems, including someone having a headache. It can make them feel like they're going to pass out, and if they're exposed long enough, it can affect their heart so much that their heart stops beating, or what we call cardiac arrest, and can be lead to, as a cause of death to people. Well, there's carbon monoxide in the air that we're breathing all the time, and if that level gets high enough, it can cause poisoning or side effects that can lead to death and various other symptoms. So carbon monoxide is a gas, and it happens to be formed anytime there's a combustible reaction that's involving carbon material. So the most common ways that we see carbon monoxide being produced are under house fires or the burning of wood, charcoal, propane gas, unvented stoves, portable heaters, automobile exhaust, and things of that nature. And so if that happens to occur in a unvented area, it can lead to an increase in the amount of carbon monoxide. And if there's a person in that room, they can breathe in higher elements of carbon monoxide that can lead to carbon monoxide poisoning. So our human body needs oxygen to survive, and oxygen circulates in our red blood cells, but carbon monoxide takes the place of that oxygen. So we start to have a hypoxic or low oxygen effect from carbon monoxide. Additionally, there's an inflammatory and immunologic effect on our cells, especially in our nervous system or our brain, that causes significant issues as well. The biggest problem that CO causes is this inflammatory change in the brain. And the longer you have this exposure to carbon monoxide, the bigger this inflammatory response is. The hypoxia, or the low oxygen, particularly tends to affect the cardiac cells or our heart cells. And so our heart is starved of oxygen and can lead to major problems. So when someone has carbon monoxide poisoning, we generally classify it in two different ways: acute toxicity and also delayed presentation. So the acute presentation is very broad and can be a lot of different symptoms. The most common that we see is a headache, but it can range from flu-like symptoms. Someone can be nauseous with vomiting. They can pass out. They can have a seizure. They can have palpitations. They can just feel like their muscles are feeling weak. On the other hand, someone that may have an exposure to carbon monoxide, and a day later or several months later, they can start to have severe neuropsychiatric symptoms, including memory loss, difficulty controlling their muscles or motor problems, difficulty sensing things around them. They normally would be able to sense that they can feel things in their hands, and they can't do that anymore. Or problems even completing simple tasks like mathematical problems, they are no longer able to do that. What a physician would do to treat this is provide them with oxygen. This allows the body to get rid of the carbon monoxide, since they're outside of that source of carbon monoxide, and that new oxygen to come in and help with the hypoxia that they're experiencing. Now, if someone has a big enough exposure, meaning that they start to have those inflammatory changes in their central nervous system, we can also treat them with hyperbaric medicine. And this is using 100% oxygen at a high pressure to increase the overall amount of oxygen that is in the human body. The main way that we have to detect carbon monoxide is through carbon monoxide detectors. Unfortunately, the gas is colorless, odorless, tasteless, so we have no way of sensing it, but carbon monoxide detectors can. So it's very important that these are checked on an at least annual basis. Also, if you're starting to notice that there's anything that's burning and you're starting to notice symptoms, like all of a sudden you feel like you're getting the flu or you're having a headache or you're not feeling well, you should turn off whatever that fuel source is and go outside. Certainly go to the emergency department or see your doctor if you have any concerns that there may be a carbon monoxide leak in your home. One thing that's really challenging and tricky about carbon monoxide is it's a really small molecule. So it has the ability to pass through drywall that's been painted. And even if it's not your heater, your stove, or whatever the fuel source may be that's malfunctioning, maybe it's your neighbor in the basement. Maybe it's someone in the floor above you. This can diffuse through the walls and can cause significant problems for those that are in row houses, apartments, and structures like that. So the treatment of carbon monoxide poisoning is oxygen. And so someone will be started on 100% oxygen. And what we're trying to do there is displace the carbon monoxide that is in the body and let the body get rid of it. The main way you do that is getting that person out of that carbon monoxide exposure and then giving them oxygen. If someone has had a big enough exposure, meaning that they've now had significant inflammatory changes from the carbon monoxide, we treat them with hyperbaric medicine. This is typically seen in those who have signs of central nervous damage. So people who pass out, people who have seizures, people who have neurologic deficits, weakness, and sensation abnormalities. We also tend to treat those who are at the extremes of age, so those who are younger, infants, and those who are over the age of 50, because they're at higher risk of developing delayed consequences from the carbon monoxide exposure. And we think the reason for that is people are now turning on their heating systems, and if those have not been properly maintained, they may start to have an increase in the production of carbon monoxide. And if people don't have their CO detectors up to date, they may never know that there is a leak. So we do see an increase in frequency in carbon monoxide poisoning during the winter months. It's very, very important that you have your carbon monoxide detectors checked on a regular basis. This should be happening at least annually, and everyone should have one in their home. We typically ask that you put it as low to the floor as possible and you have it on multiple levels, meaning a carbon monoxide detector on multiple levels if you live on a multi-level home. The most important way to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning is having a functional carbon monoxide detector in your home. If you do not have one of those, it is very important that you purchase one. This can be obtained at a local hardware store, but should also be checked on an annual basis to make sure that it's functioning properly.